Good Monday evening, everyone, and welcome to Monday Night Safety Stop on our season finale, I should say. This is the final episode until the fall, and I want to introduce to you guys Ben from Dive Avilo. He's going to be with us this evening talking about the Avilo system, and I know a lot of people had questions on the episodes that we have talked about the system, and so the man who can answer the questions is here. So, Ben, welcome to the show. Jojo, how are you doing, buddy?
Oh, dry today.
I tell you what, them
Uh,
storms that come through this weekend. If you're coming to the park this weekend, please note that our main sign got taken down during the storms on Friday, so it actually snapped one of the 4x4 posts. So
oh wow.
hit pretty hard, yeah. So Ben, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on. I know me and Joe have talked about the Avilo system, and of course, there's been questions popped up, and so just give us a little bit about Dive Avilo.
All right. Well, Avello was born about 6 years ago on Maui, and since then has expanded pretty quickly across the globe. Um, the beauty of Avello is that it's safer, it's lighter, and it's a lot more fun to dive on because you have this stable neutral buoyancy platform. So your buoyancy does not change as you swim up and down. You finally get to swim like a fish.
Okay. Well, and I think that's been like one of the main questions is because we have recreational divers and we have technical divers, and if you go from recreational back mount to side mount, you're learning how to dive all over again. If you go to rebreather,
Yep.
you're learning how to dive all over again. So, how is the Avilo? I mean, is it another same way?
So, unfortunately, even if you are an expert diver with phenomenal buoyancy control, you're going to have to learn to dive all over again. There's a shift that happens with this that the challenges of scuba in always letting air in and out of our BCD to control our buoyancy as we go up and down shift again. And what we want you to do is forget about the scuba breathing that you've learned over hundreds and hundreds of dives and just breathe like you do normally every day and then swim around. Once you set the buoyancy and once you get to a neutral buoyancy here, the only thing that's going to change in your system now is the amount of air in your tank. So as you breathe that air out of your tank and you start to get lighter and lighter, and you feel that, you can reach back, you can turn that pump on, you can pump some more water into your tank, and you can bring yourself back to a neutral buoyancy standpoint again.
Okay. So, like, if we're diving and, how when we get ready to come up, you kick up a little bit, but we don't actually put air into our BC. We kick up and let the, decreasing pressure do the work. So, how does that affect, you're talking about controlling your buoyancy?
Right. So the beauty of this is that once you uh, are in the water on the Avello system, the displacement of water doesn't change. Where in standard scuba, you have this big inflatable bubble on the outside of a tank that does this as you're going up and down. So your displacement changes, which changes your buoyancy. On the Avello system, everything is contained inside your tank. So inside the tank, there is a thick rubber bladder, and all of your breathing gas is inside that bladder. So we have you go into the water about 2 pounds positively buoyant. That's something that you'll learn to calculate in your recreational velo diver course. When you enter the water, we'll do a buoyancy check. We'll get that all situated. We may have to add a little bit of weight, a little bit of lead, or maybe take some away depending on your individual buoyancy. But once you get to that point, you turn the pump on and you pump in about 2 pounds of water. That happens in about a minute.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
That gets you to a neutral buoyancy. At that point, with a big exhale, you can slowly drift down. Okay. You're going to turn, you're going to roll over, and you're going to kick yourself down. It's an active descent.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
You can swim down as deep as you want, and now there's no change to the bubble. The bubble that we have is inside that tank. Okay. So you can
Awesome.
swim down to 100 feet, and your buoyancy is just the same as it is at the surface.
Okay. So, and I know another question that we had, Joe will remember this, like, so when you start your ascent, so
Yep.
I know, if you're just, well, let me back up just a second. So, whenever you're at depth and you're diving, uh, do you stay like pretty much neutral until you get ready to come up?
You will stay neutral. You can be at 100 feet and you can swim up. So if you're in a beautiful place like Maui and you're following that turtle from depth and it swims all the way up to the surface, you can follow that turtle all the way to the surface and absolutely nothing will change with your buoyancy.
Okay.
Your buoyancy is stable all the way up, independent of depth.
So, as far as like now, that brings me back to my second part. There is
Okay.
the ascent. So you just literally
Yep.
just same thing like as regular divers, we just kick up a little bit and just kind of go up. Now, what happens to the pressure? Does it decrease as we go up, or
So as you go up, the pressure on the outside of the tanks will decrease just like normal. However, uh, nothing changes with the size of the tank. Nothing changes with my body. And so my buoyancy stays stable. I will have to kick all the way up to the surface. If I stop kicking at any point, I just stop there. It's not like standard scuba where my BCD is inflating and I start to get pulled up. So there's zero risk of a rapid ascent to the surface.
awesome, JoJo?
I mean, that's safety protocol right there. That that, what am I? How I want to word this? And that's probably one of the biggest risks we have in diving is a uncontrolled ascent.
Yeah,
And
uncontrolled ascent, especially with new divers, that's really not mastered buoyancy, in open water, outside of open water. I always tell my open water students, as far as buoyancy, you need to work with it, until about 100 dives, you're not going to be able to quote unquote master or get close, until you've got that experience. But with the Avilo system, it's kind of takes all that work out of it.
I was diving with a diver, a brand new diver down in Florida last summer. This was like dives 5 and 6 coming out of their open water. We were on Lukey Reef and came out of the water, and their open water instructor sounded a little bit whiny when he was like, "It's just not fair." This brand new diver had buoyancy that was just as solid as the instructors after like 2 dives on the system. It's just there. It becomes an intuitive thing. If you want to go up a little bit, you use your lungs for depth control. It's a little bit different, a little bit of nuance, but you take a big breath in and your buoyancy goes up, and so you float up a little bit. But as soon as you exhale back to your normal breath, you go right back to neutral buoyancy. You don't have that big balloon on your back that as you go up, it gets bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, for a
So
lot of divers, especially newer divers, that's one of the hardest things for them to be able to compensate is the buoyancy. And,
yep.
with the Avelo system, I mean, you're taking a lot of that out of play to make them, better divers, number one, because, they've got kind of like tables and computers years ago. Back in the old days, it was tables, 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 and then the computers come out, and it's like, oh, well, we're still doing tables, but then once computers started getting big, now it's like tables are on the back burner, and it's computer, computer, computer.
Yep. One of the things that I love about a Velo is that there is no computer that is controlling my buoyancy. Okay? The biggest thing is that my displacement of water, the size of me and my entire system, doesn't change during my dive. So it's inherently stable. And one of the beauties of it is that the foundation of our dive is going into the water 2 pounds positive. So when everything goes bad, worst case scenario, I open the purge valve and the air pressure in the tank pushes that water out. It's completely passive. I go back to a point that's 2 pounds positive versus on standard scuba, our foundation is being 5 to 6 pounds negatively buoyant at the
Yeah.
beginning of our dive. So when everything goes wrong, if I pop my BCD, I become negative and I float to the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and especially, looking at the difference between aluminum and steel. So my next question, and if anybody's on our live chat here, go ahead and chime in. I see JoJo has put hello everyone. Not seeing any of our regulars popping in tonight.
That's
Which
kind of what I've been working on. It's a little
well,
hard.
I know a couple of them are out on cruises, so I don't know if they're diving around the Caribbean right now. But yeah, we've been discussing this system, and it's for us who's not familiar with it, it's the reason that we invited Ben to come on, because this is something that I can see it, especially 5-10 years down the road, is going to be more in line, or I say more like the tables to computer kind of thing. If it catches on, like I'm thinking it will. I may be totally wrong, but I mean, you can get people on these systems, and I think there's the recreational Avelo diver course, that right now I know this weekend, Rusty from Louisville Dive Center is actually going to be at the park teaching a class. So if you guys are out and diving with us this Memorial Day weekend, let us know. We can actually, because Rusty's going to have a couple of them down there working, doing the RAD certifications. And I'm interested, 'cause I can't wait to see it, because I've seen them at DEMA, but actually getting to see it, and then hopefully by the end of the summer, if we're lucky enough to get Ben to come down later on, and maybe get some classes going on if anybody's interested in it, and then do a tour stop, a Velo. Tell us about the Velo tour stop.
Yeah, so I've been on the road for about a year now. Started in Colorado and drove down to Key West and started working with dive centers in Key West. Worked all the way up through Florida, drove back across the country to Texas and Utah on my way to DEMA last year. Uh, Made it all the way back to Florida and back to Colorado again. So have covered quite a few miles. In that time, working with dive centers all across the U.S., teaching them how to dive a velo, working with their instructors, getting them up to speed to become a velo pros so they can start teaching it there. Had the opportunity to go and work with Rusty at Louisville Dive Center. So got into the pool with him there and have done quite a bit of diving in their pool. It's a pretty fabulous facility there, but it's nothing like being out in the open water. It's nothing
Yeah.
like when you can really do a big ascent. Um, and having places like yours are awesome to be able to do that training inland, so you can do that and then go to one of these dive centers in the Caribbean like your regulars are right
Oh yeah.
now, and go dive. And we talk a lot about the stable neutral buoyancy, and there's some huge benefits to that. uh, it's not the only benefit though. Most divers are going to find that their total system weight is 20 to 30 pounds lighter than standard scuba. So imagine walking back up out of the quarry, walking back up onto dry land again, or climbing up on the boat, and having 20 to 30 pounds less on your back. That's a pretty significant difference.
Oh yeah, especially if you've got back problems.
Oh, for sure.
Knee problems. I mean, yeah, the weight, it was a big thing uh, that I liked, is shedding the weight.
Well, it's
Well,
it's wonderful when we jump in, because you giant stride. Ultimately, you become weightless, and it's all fun and games until it's time to come back out, and now gravity kicks in, and that is just
Yep.
like, oh, do I have to?
yeah, that part sucks. So I just got your tech spots up here, and I got 45 pounds for your system, which our average system is probably around 75. So I mean, that's a heck of a difference in weight.
I missed that part. You said your average weight of your system is 75 pounds.
Yeah, so you probably take your whole system as our standard recreational diving, about 75 pounds.
Yeah, the whole
Tank,
kit.
weight, all that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then we're going to turn around. We're going with a velo, which is staying about 45. That's a big reduction.
Oh yeah.
It's a huge reduction, and it really makes the diving a lot more fun. Yes, you are weightless underwater. However, our system is phenomenally more streamlined than even like a backplate and wing. You really just have the tank there, and the display or not the displacement, but moving through the water without the drag of a BCD makes swimming a lot easier. Uh, that, along with the stable neutral buoyancy, helps your whole body relax. And what we found is even instructors who are very experienced find that their workload drops, their SAC rates will drop on the Avello system.
Hmm. We just want to give a quick shout out. Steve finally chimed in. He's the one that I was expecting to come in. Good afternoon, Steve.
Okay.
You know, he's one of our regulars. He gets on here. I know he just got done with a cruise, or I think he it may be still on the cruise watching. I don't know. But anyway, so I've got the images that you sent me on the Velo. I don't know where you want to start because I mean I see a couple of them here. So let's talk about the setup. And I've got the
Okay.
it's the hydro tank with the jetpack here. Now I'm going to try to bring that in here. Give me just a second. Oh, that's not that one. Let's
So
see.
you got a bunch of people chiming in now.
There you go. All right. So it's kind of overlaid us, but at least you can still hear us. This is kind of the basic of it, right, Ben?
Yeah. So what we have on the left there is the hydro tank, and it is a COPV. It's a composite overwrap pressure vessel. So the core of it is a thin aluminum liner that's wrapped with carbon fiber and fiberglass and epoxy to create an incredibly strong shell. The rubber bladder on the inside of it holds the gas. So whatever your breathing gas is, we can go up to nitrox, 40% O2. That is all on the inside of the bladder. And you can see that. You may have to zoom in a little bit for people at home there. But that black bladder on the inside of there fills up the entire tank when it is pressurized. Now, the pump that you'll see on the jetpack, and that's the image on the right there,
Okay.
pumps water into the tank. As it does that, it starts to compress that bladder. So we start to add water into the tank, and every liter of water that we add into there is about 2 pounds. And so that's why we want to get you to be about 2 pounds positive at the beginning of the dive. We'll pump a liter of water into it in about a minute, and now you're neutral. So as you go up and down, you can see that the hard shell of the tank cannot be compressed. So the air on the inside stays the same volume, except for when you're breathing it out. As you breathe it out and get lighter, you're going to reduce the mass of the tank. As that happens, you're going to start to become more buoyant. And when you feel that, when you start to feel it pulling you up, which is typically at about 2 pounds of positive upward force, we'll turn that pump on and we'll pump another liter of water back into the tank.
Okay.
So
So
we
is
keep
that
ourselves at neutral that way.
okay? So that's like automatic. It'll do that automatically, right?
It's not automatic, and that's
Oh,
one of the
okay.
beauties of the system too. Is there's nothing automatic about it. When you start to feel like you're being lifted up a little bit, when you're a little bit positive, you'll go ahead and turn a switch on, and you can see where that switch is noted on the jetpack there on the right side. There's a little on-off button on the
Yeah.
bottom of the jetpack. You'll turn that on, and the pump runs for a minute. It'll shut itself off after a minute.
Oh. Now is it
If you
timed
don't
that? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yep, it's timed that way, so it shuts itself off after a minute. That's the only thing automatic about it. If you decide you don't want the full minute, you can go ahead and turn that off early, and just by touching that button again.
Oh. Okay. Let's see. All right. Let me pull that one there back. Yeah. So I mean, like if you start feeling yourself come up, you hit the button. after a minute, you're going to kind of equalize out and still be, in kind of a neutral position. Let's see. Let me give a shout out here real quick. It looks like, of course, we've already said hello to Steve. Mr. Dave Lowney's in here, Mr. Todd Ransford, and Mr. Tony Logton. Greetings to all. We are in the middle of discussing the Avelo system, which, I mean, just honestly, I'm kind of digging it, JoJo.
Oh yeah, me too. Not just the diving part, but the engineering part behind it too. Loving the Kevlar tank pretty much. Uh,
So,
if you've ever picked one of those tanks up, they are absolutely light. Uh,
oh yeah,
so,
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
and then all the physics involved, you inside the tank, ingenious to use Archimedes' principle inside the tank itself, where the tank is rigid, but everything else inside is using those physics. It's absolutely astonishing. Genius, I
Oh yeah, and
think.
the design with the carbon fiber, again, there's a lot of weight right there because with traditional aluminum or steel, I mean, it's there with the carbon fiber. And I don't know how many of our people that are watching have dealt with carbon fiber cylinders, but it's the same cylinders fire departments use as far as carbon fiber. And if you've ever picked one of those up, I mean, them things, they look heavy, but it's like a lithium and a lead acid battery. Pick
Yeah.
each one of them up. Tell me which one's heavier. You know. So I mean, this is just like intriguing to me, and I'm really looking forward to this weekend when Rusty's down, because I mean, just to get a kind of hands-on feel for it and be able to see it up in person, and then as far as getting things set up to take the class, because I can see, like you said earlier, you're learning how to dive all over again. I've been diving for 34 years. Yeah, it'll be 34 years in September, and I don't mind to learn to dive again. Jojo, I think my comments are freezing like they have in the past. Are we having any?
I it's just been slow.
Yeah, I don't know.
Pop something up here, see what if it goes through.
Okay. Well,
Are there any questions from your listeners?
yeah, that's if you guys have a question or anything, go ahead and pop it up in the comments. While we've got Ben here, I mean, he is the expert on this system, and that's the reason we brought him on because in past episodes we've talked about the Avelo and the how it's supposed to change your buoyancy and all that, but we still had tons of questions, and we brought him on so he could answer them for us, and
Yeah,
that's the whole
it's
point
showing
of
we
it.
got eyes, but nobody's commenting. Weird.
Yeah, I know. And we got people watching.
What were
But
some of the other questions that you've had in the past?
so like of course, we've talked about the certification class. As far as being certified to dive on it, because it is a different way to dive. How long is the class typically?
The class has a couple of components. There's the e-learning that you'll do, and that typically takes people an hour and a half to 2 hours. And then it's a little bit of pre-dive class and 2 dives in the water. We also spend quite a bit of time looking at dive profiles, which is something that a lot of people don't do. However, on a velo, you really get a chance to see what's happening in your dive in ways that you haven't before. Because we can show what's happening with your buoyancy and your workload, you can really start to see how, when you are in that zone of neutral buoyancy, in that spot where
Uh-oh.
your buoyancy, the regular breath, not with your lungs. Like a lot of us can control a lot of buoyancy with our lungs, but we have to breathe really high or really low. And when we do that, it stresses our body. We start to breathe a lot more. When you're in that zone of just that regular breath, your body really gets to relax in some awesome new ways, and you'll watch your workloads go down. And we can show you that in the graphs, in the numbers. And when people see that, they really get into it. It starts to be a little bit of competition in diving now. Who can stay in that zone? Who can get their workload lower? What's happening during your dive?
So how would it affect your sack rate? I mean, do you see a whole lot better sack rates with a Velo versus traditional?
We do. Even experienced divers often will see their sack rates start to drop a little bit. Um, for us who have done hundreds or thousands of dives, buoyancy control becomes pretty. Thinking our brains are still going like this all the time. They're working on it, and that makes us breathe a lot more. When you get to relax and shut that off, and you're not worried and not always on alert for that time when you're going to start that ascent, um, you can relax, and your sac rates will go down.
Well, I know JoJo over here likes to make as long of a dive as possible. Um, when we're in Roatan diving, he is usually the first one in, and then at the hour and 5 or hour and 6 mark is when he comes up, and he's still got what 1,200 psi left. I mean,
Yeah,
it's just like
hour dive in, I've still got quite a bit.
it's
But
like,
yeah, I
dude, do
usually
you
watch
breathe?
the last person get on the boat because I know at that point I'm pulling up the rest of the boat. Um, yeah.
So we're going
Michael
to give you
Sutherland.
one of the small
Yeah.
tanks. Jojo, we're going to give you one of the small tanks. We have 8 liter and 10 liter tanks, and at 3,000 psi standard fill, they're equivalent basically to a 63 and an 80. However, one of
Wow.
the advantages of Velo is that you can do higher pressure fills on these things, and we can pump these up to 4,350 psi.
Oh wow.
So on that small tank, we can make that an 80 cubic foot tank or equivalent to that. So you can take a small tank, Jojo, and you can put a lot more air in there, and you can stay down underwater.
Yeah. So I do have a
In
question.
fact, I'll take the bigger tank with the higher pressure.
Okay, so at that point, you're looking at about 100 cubic feet of air. So it's like carrying a
Hey,
steel 100
perfect.
round, and the weight of the tank and the air is running around 20 pounds.
Wow. My back's already saying thank you.
Yeah, really 20 pounds. That is light.
So we've got
I'm
a
going.
question. We've got a question up here. Michelle Sutherland has asked. She said she just come in here. Sorry, why is it different than other tanks? So Ben, you want to go back just a little bit and kind of give the difference again?
Sure. The tank that we have is a COPV. It's a carbon overwrap pressure vessel. But unlike just a carbon fiber tank, our hydro tank has a rubber bladder on the inside of it. And it has a port on the bottom that allows us to pump water into the tank. So we're going to control our buoyancy by changing the weight of the tank by pumping water inside of it.
Yeah. And that doesn't affect the operation. We're always taught, we don't want to get water in our cylinder. You don't that's a bad thing. So, this is actually designed because of the buoyancy factor to, give you better buoyancy. I know you just come in, Michelle, but he was talking about just a little bit ago. You maintain neutral buoyancy with very little effort. And I personally, even after 34 years of diving, I'm still constantly, no, don't get close to the reef, maintain, normal breathing. You're always thinking buoyancy, on traditional scuba. So to me, this is going to be interesting. It's going to be a learning curve because, as Ben said before, you're learning to dive all over again. So
Yeah, what we found is that most people are going to use this system 2 or 3 times during an hour-long dive. It'll be 2 or 3 times that you're going to add water into the system to bring yourself back to that neutral buoyancy point. And that the only reason you're doing that is that you're getting lighter because you're breathing air out of the tank. And so if you take your tank and you breathe that tank to 500 on an 80, you're going to be breathing about 5 pounds of air out of that tank. So you're going to get that much lighter over the course of the dive. So when you purge that water out of the tank at the end of the dive, you're going to add that as buoyancy back to that. So at the end of the dive, you're going to be like 7 or 8 pounds positively buoyant.
So when we talk about, and that was another question that we had, was the weighting. So, whenever you get in your wetsuit and, dive in traditional scuba, you doing your weight checks and stuff. So how does the weighting work? I know you've said a little bit about you want to be 2 pounds positive. How do we get there?
Right. So the system without air in it is designed to be just about neutrally buoyant. So you take the displacement of the tank and the system itself, and that weight about equals out. And so we have a weight calculator that we use, and that's part of our training. So you punch your body weight in there, you punch in the type of exposure suit you're wearing. We know the buoyancy factor of the tank and the system that you're using, and that will tell you about how much lead that you have to wear. For people diving in freshwater, we actually talk about anti-weight, and often have to add flotation back to people, unless they're wearing very thick wetsuits. So, I mean, for me, for example, in a 3 mil wetsuit, I will typically add about 2 pounds of lead uh, to to the system to bring myself to that 2 pounds positively buoyant.
Hmm. Okay.
And so a
Like
lot
how
of people are in that range of adding 2 to 4 pounds. But again, what we need to get away from is thinking about the amount of lead that we're adding to the belt or to the system, and thinking about the total system weight. Uh, because that's really what's important. If you have a steel 100 and a steel backplate, you may only add 4 pounds of actual lead to the system. That's because the whole thing already weighs 75 pounds.
Yeah. Hmm.
Are we talking weight belts when we do add this?
Yeah, that was another question.
So there's multiple points on the system itself that you can add weights. With our current tanks, we often add 2 to 4 pounds on the cage on the bottom of the tank. One of the features of the cage is that we can hold weight on there, and that helps with trim to bring the back end of that down. There's also Velcro straps on the waist pads that allow us to put weight in multiple different locations so that you can really work the trim out. There's also Molly straps up the shoulder straps. And so some people will even add weight up onto shoulder straps here.
Okay. Well, and I know
I was
another cool.
wondering. I'm very floaty feety, so like getting that weight down is very important.
What'd
I
you say,
missed that. What
JoJo?
was that?
I said I'm very float. My feet like to float, so I have to get the weight down as low as I possibly can.
Yep, we'll go ahead and put it down around the cage for you then.
Well, now, just going to tell you a quick funny story on JoJo. With his side mount rig and his dry suit, what was it, 63 pounds of lead with a dry suit
Yeah,
and doing side mount? So,
yeah.
we have to weight
It's
JoJo
that
down.
weight.
And I know another cool feature that I've seen because we deal a lot with Shearwater, and I think that's something that you
Okay.
guys have actually partnered with Shearwater, and I think the computers have like an Avelo mode now, right?
Yeah, so Shearwater and Scuba Pro both have computers that they have built for us. I shouldn't say they built computers. There's algorithms inside that run the Avelo mode. What that does is it returns the air remaining in your tank to you as a percentage, which sounds funny to us initially, but think about driving a car. You look at your gas gauge and it tells you have 3/4 of a tank, half a tank, quarter of a tank. When you rent a car on vacation and are driving something that's totally different from you, it doesn't matter if that has an 8 gallon tank or an 80 gallon tank. When you get down around a quarter tank, you'd be like, oh, it's time to fill up. And that's similar to what is happening with a velo. Um, when you get down to that 30% and you can still use your rule of thirds, and so you can plan your dive rule of thirds, you hit 66 and you know that's a turnaround pressure. At 33, you're getting into that reserve, and so you need to be headed for the surface. Um, but it becomes a much more intuitive thing. Take a new diver and tell them they have to turn around at 1800 psi, and they're like, well, why do we got to turn around at 1800? But if I tell you you got to turn around at half tank, like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
If I've used half my tank, I got to turn around so I can come back. Um, and the reason that we need to do that percentage is when we turn that pump on and pump water into the tank, it's going to take the bladder on the inside of the tank and it's going to compress that. When it compresses that, the air pressure goes up. It's a very new and weird thing to watch the air pressure go up during your dive. It does not mean that you have more air in your tank.
Yeah, and I can see where people be like, "Ooh, I hit a button and I get more air." Yeah, that doesn't work that way.
We've joked about that a little bit before.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me and JoJo, that'd be great. Be looking at, we've only got 1,000 pounds left. Let me push this button. Hey, I'm up to 15.
Right? And at the beginning of a dive, you actually see a 3 to 500 psi increase in a minute. So it's a significant increase that happens. It's not anything that's a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, if you think about it. Now, I'm not an engineer. JoJo is. So he understands a little bit more on the design and design end of it. But I mean, I get why you do the percentage wise because of that
Yeah, I was
compression.
actually was one of my big questions is like, how do you make a reference to actually how much you have in that tank if your psi is going to fluctuate? So making it like a gas tank makes a lot more sense and how that works. So, yeah, thank
And we do teach you in the course how to dive this without the Avelo mode. You do not have to do that. I dove on the system for, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 dives before I had the Avelo mode, and I used an SPG for that. And so you base that off the maximum pressure at the beginning of your dive. So, like I mentioned earlier, you're going to go into the water about 2 pounds positively buoyant. And if you start with a tank that has 3,000 psi in it, you're going to turn that pump on. You're going to run that to pump in that liter of water to make yourself neutral. At that point, you're probably going to be running around a pressure of like 3,400, 3,500. And so you base your rule of thirds off that new maximum pressure of 3,400. So if you do the math on that, like if we'll make it easy, if it's 3,900, now your rule of thirds say you need to turn around at 2,600.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, very interesting stuff. I mean, again, I can't wait till this weekend when I can actually get a hands on, look at it and, we can actually start working on. I mean, I'm planning on doing it. Probably won't be this weekend because Memorial Day weekend is pretty busy at the park. So I'll be running around like a chicken with my head cut off. Well, JoJo will be too.
you. Equipment is another big thing. Compatibility. Being able to handle these higher pressures and such. Is you running into an issue with that?
You do need a DIN regulator for this. DIN regulators, almost all of them are rated to 4,350. You cannot use an adapter to connect your standard yoke to the tank because the yoke on your regulator is not rated to 4,350.
Yeah.
Most regulators are convertible. So you can take them into the dive shop. You can get a conversion kit. They'll take the yoke off and they put a DIN screw into it, and you can use the same regulator. You just can't use the yoke itself. Beyond that, uh, the jetpack and the hydro tank are really the only equipment that you need there. Almost every dive shop out there can probably fill higher than 3,000 psi. They don't usually. And again, you don't necessarily need to have that on a velo. It's just one of those possibilities that you have. And so as you go different places in a spot where having that much extra air is a benefit, you'll be able to find a place that can fill for you.
Well, I know like our system, we have a 4700, so that wouldn't be a problem with the ours. Plus, we have the den fittings and everything like that. So,
Yeah.
um,
It just takes some adjustment to what people are used to normally doing, what you're running your bank pressures to, and just how you have your compressor set up.
yeah. Well, I know that was another question that we have had in the past was how do you fill them? And, of course, not being familiar with it, I didn't know if it was den or if there was, like a proprietary fitting, something, on that aspect. I wasn't sure. And that's the reason I asked that question.
No, we've tried to make as much stuff not specific. Um, so even like our quick disconnects, the hydraulic hoses, most of the components that you're going to find on here are going to be very similar to standard scuba fittings.
Yeah.
Even the valve on top is a standard off-the-shelf valve that we have for the tanks.
Gotcha. So, and I'm going to ask this question just from a being a PSI instructor. I've talked with Mark about it. Actually, I think I talked with him, or it was one of the questions that was brought up at the instructor meeting here a couple of months ago. Um, they have the same standard testing per DOT, correct? 5 years.
Correct.
So, is there a
Yeah,
different?
it's a DOT approved. It's a DOT approved tank. You have to do a visual inspection annually and a hydraulic inspection every 5 years. To do that, you do need an Avello technician that can take that bladder out of the tank. To inspect the inside of the tank, you need to take the bladder out. So you take that out, you do the inspection, you put the bladder back in, and you're good to go.
Okay. And that was one of the questions that another question I had about, as far as serviceability, hydro, visual inspection, all that. Because it really wasn't a whole lot, Mark didn't have a whole lot of information on it. Matter of fact, he told me, he said, if we get a demo day or something coming to the quarry, let him know because he's interested in it.
Okay.
But I think he had talked with someone down in Texas and told him if he ever got down to Texas that they would, take him through it. And when I told him we was trying to get it at the park, he's in North Carolina, so it's a little easier for him to make it from there to here than it is from there to Texas.
Well, he may get a chance to dive this thing before you then.
Maybe.
I think I'm going to be headed to North Carolina um, even as early as the end of June.
Oh, okay.
So I may be out there before I come to Kentucky this year. So
Okay. Well, good deal. Yeah, I have to send him a text message say, "Hey, Ben's heading your way."
that would be great.
But yeah, I mean, I can see how it is. Let me ask this question. So, how is it picking up? I mean, are you seeing, really a lot more people getting interested in it?
We are. It's starting to pick up quite a bit. We've been opening dive centers all over the place. We have them in Florida, California, Gilboa, Corey up in Ohio, Kentucky, and just are about to open one in Colorado here. I'll be working with the instructors there in the next few weeks to get them up to speed. We have a team right now that's in Malaysia for a couple of big events that are there. So you'll be able to see sites coming online pretty soon to go dive in Malaysia. We're working on bringing it to the Cozumel, Cancun area in Mexico here this year. So a lot of different places that are coming online, and you'll be able to travel around the world and dive this thing very soon.
Awesome.
Bonaire, Spain, Australia. There's enough places to dive that you're not going to get tired.
Well, and the funny thing about you said Bonaire, we were at DEMA 2 years ago when it was in New Orleans, and before the show opened up one day, they were giving out, doing prizes and stuff. And my wife actually got a certificate to do it in Bonaire. We haven't been there yet.
You need to go.
Well, I mean, we've been to Bonaire, but we went in 22, and then of course,
Okay.
at DEMA in New Orleans, what was 23. So we're actually planning Bonaire in 26, Joe. Yeah, March of 26. So we'll be back. This time next year we'll be back down there.
Okay.
But maybe we'll be able to get it all set up and do it down there.
Hopefully you're certified before then, and you can just go dive on it there.
Oh yeah. So and that brings also to another question there. Is there on the website for Avelo? Is there like a place that shows where you can actually dive it, like not just like the dealer locator?
Yeah, there is. Hold on here.
Yeah, no worries.
Get rid of that. Yeah, and one of those slides that I sent you today has some pins on it, but there is a dealer locator on there. And so you can see all of the Avelo dive centers across the U.S. and across the world on our website.
All right, and then I'm going to go ahead because I've got that one right here. So yeah, it looks like you got a few dots on there right now.
We got a few dots on there, yep. So you can see Maui on the far left there, and you can see all the way over to Australia on the far right. In between there, we have a dive center in Saudi Arabia. We're going to Malaysia. You can see on Spain on there. Some in Germany that are going to be coming online. And then into the Caribbean and all across the U.S. So it's opening up pretty quickly, and I think you're going to see that start to grow. We are just about ready to certify our 1,000th diver on Avelo.
Cool.
I'm guessing that's going to happen in the next 2 weeks, probably.
Awesome. So, well, I haven't talked to Rusty to see how many he's got this weekend. So,
yeah, mine. Probably not this weekend, but maybe the next one. So,
well, it's a good goal to have.
All the instructors are watching the counts right now.
My wife just chimed in. She said I lost that. Huh?
I said all the instructors are watching the count. They want to be the person to certify that 1,000th diver.
I was saying my wife just chimed in and she said she lost that ticket a long time ago. Well, I mean, that was almost 2 years ago. So no telling. It's probably in our DEMA bag somewhere.
Well, tell them you won it, and maybe they'll give you a free rental over there because you'll be certified by that point anyway. So.
Oh yeah, most definitely. All right, well, we've got about 10 minutes left. So, guys, if you're on here watching, you have any questions for Ben, go ahead, pop them up in the comments box. That way, we've got a little bit of time to let Ben answer it. But it's been great having you here on the show, Ben. Just a lot of questions have been answered about the system. Just want to throw out, I know I've said it a couple of times, Rusty from Louisville Dive Center will be at the park this weekend doing a RAD class. I don't know how many students he's got, but, definitely you can check into that and get in on it. Hopefully, I've been working with Ben and Rusty both. Hopefully, we're going to have Ben at the quarry at some point this summer, and we'll be trying to get things set up to get folks in and on the Avelo because I'm stoked about it. I really am. I think this is going to be something that, as a underwater photographer standpoint, that is going to help me in my photography and not have to worry about, getting a perfect shot, but also I'm not having to worry about buoyancy and all that. It'll let me focus more on what I'm wanting to do. So really, really stoked about that.
Not to mention new toy.
You talk about the Avelo tour like it's still a question mark for the summer. I have it on my calendar to be out there.
So. Well, I know we have the date,
and
we haven't.
Looking forward to diving with you.
Well, I was going to say we have the date. We haven't put it out because I'm waiting for it to be confirmed. So if you tell me it's confirmed, we're going to start marketing. That's all you got to do.
I'll confirm it right now. Just send that paperwork back to me.
All right. Yeah, I think that was July 26th.
Oh,
that sounds right.
Weekend right after Women's Dive.
Yeah, it's the weekend after Women's Dive Day. So we have the biggest event of the season, Women's Dive Day, and then we're going to turn around the 26th and 27th and have Ben out doing the Velo tour. And so if you're interested in this, again, I know Rusty's doing one this weekend. I don't know. He'll probably do one or two more between now and July. But, definitely, that's when I'm going to try to make my plans to go through and get certified on it, that July 26th and 27th. I knew we had the dates, but until I had a confirmation, I didn't want to get it out there and get everybody's hopes up and.
Well, let's put out the challenge to everybody listening, and let's make Women's Dive Day the second largest event of the year, and see if we can't get the Avella Tour to be even bigger than that one.
Hey, it sounds good to me. My wife will probably be like, hey, I worked too hard on Women's Dive Day. But, I mean, it's a perfect opportunity, especially folks coming in. If you're watching the podcast or the live cast, and of course, this is going to be on our YouTube channel from here on out. So if you're watching it after the show's over with, just mark these dates down. July 26th, 27th, Ben will be at the quarry with the Avelo Tour. So mark your calendars. If you're interested in it, come by, see him. Hopefully we'll be doing the class and, getting some more people certified on the Avelo. I'm stoked. I don't have to worry about buoyancy. I get to learn a new way to dive, and yeah, I'm jazzed for it. JoJo's eyes are big, so I know he's in.
I'm also laughing at your wife saying, no, like she's ready to throat punch you.
Oh, yeah.
Is she a diver as well?
Yes, yeah. She's an assistant instructor. Frank has asked, Frank Winstead, he's one of our...
We'll have to get her on the system that weekend then, too.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Frank asked, what's the cost? So, Frank, are you talking about the class, the unit? What are you talking about? Michelle says, I love Women's Dive Day. And, of course, my wife says, no. So I'll just cover this while Frank's probably answering. So what's the cost for the certification class? Just a rough.
So typically the MSRP for that I think is around $450. So that's going to depend a little bit upon whether you're doing shore dives, boat dives, what market you're in for that. The MSRP for the unit itself right now, that's the jetpack and the tank, battery and a charger, is $39.90. So just under $4,000 for that. This is still all new stuff though. So as you can imagine, we're not making hundreds of thousands of these things at this point. So as volumes increase, you should be able to see some reduction in cost with that.
Okay. So yeah, just like anything else. I mean, when a manufacturer comes out with a brand new regulator or brand new BC, it's like anything else. It's going to be up there until it, gets out and then something else comes about. So I mean, I get it for sure. And diving gear is no different.
Right.
It is all the same. Well, all right. Well, it is. We got about 5 minutes left. Ben, thank you for coming on tonight. Thank you for answering the questions. I am stoked about.
You're very welcome.
I am stoked about July 26th and 27th. We're going to start putting that out now that Ben has confirmed it. I've got it straight from Ben's mouth. It's confirmed. So, JoJo, make sure you're there.
I'm writing it down right now. July 26th and 27th.
Yeah, put it in your calendars, put it in your phone, whatnot. July 26th, 27th, the Avelo Tour will be at the park. Come out, sign up for the class. I'll get with Ben and figure out. Come take a class with me. I mean, I'm going to go through it. So, you got a chance to come and take a dive class with me. Hey, I'm going to be a student.
It's a great way to do it again.
It is. I mean, I remember, when I got certified, I was 12. So, a 12-year-old getting certified for scuba diving was just like the coolest thing ever to me. And of course, growing up through school, I was really the only kid in school who was certified to scuba dive. So, that was pretty cool. But, I'm really stoked about this because, I mean, it's so fascinating, especially the buoyancy concepts to me, from, like I told you, from a photographer standpoint. If I can improve my photography skills, hey, I'm all for it. So, JoJo, you have any other questions?
Uh, Thanks, Ben, for coming on tonight. You answered a lot of questions. Uh, Really got
It's
me
great to be with you
excited
guys.
about it. Yeah. I was like, well, how are they controlling this? How are they doing that? But what I'm hearing is that the science is sound, and this is going to be a very fun way to learn diving again. Uh, so yeah, I'm putting it down on this calendar to be down there that weekend and be part of the fun. So yeah, again, thank you. I'm ready to blow some bubbles.
Yeah, and
All right, let's do it.
I'm glad your battery lasted, Ben. No, we made it through the whole
Yep.
show. Well,
We
I'm
made it
gonna
through
go.
the whole show.
Yeah. Well, we'll go ahead and let you go, Ben. Again, thank you for coming on. Looking forward to diving with you on the Avelo in July. Again, if you're out this weekend, come by Louisville Dive Center. Rusty at Louisville Dive will have the Avelo out there. He'll be teaching the Avelo course. So if you have questions, whatnot, come by, take a look at it, ask Rusty. And, if you're out this weekend, if not, make plans July 26th, 27th. And you can come take a class with me and JoJo and, learn a new way to dive together. I'm all for it. So, all right, guys. Well, we're going to go ahead and close it for the evening. Want to thank you guys for tuning in with us. We've been doing this show since 2020 at the start of the pandemic as a way to get together and be able to talk about scuba. And it has just grown since then. And, here we are 5 years later, entering into our summer season. So just want to make sure you guys know we will not be back on until the Monday after Labor Day. And we will be on our new home on our YouTube channel, Pennyroyal Scuba Center. Look us up on the YouTube channel. Subscribe. When we come back in the fall, that's where we will be. Unfortunately, I think we're going to try to put a link on the Facebook group page, but we're going to be on there primarily. Anyway, Ben, can't wait to meet you. JoJo, I'll see you this weekend. And everybody else, if you're diving this weekend, we hope you have a fun, safe, and adventurous diving weekend. We hope you're diving with us, but if not, have fun, stay safe. We'll catch you guys on the next go around. From me and JoJo, y'all have a good week.
We are the kings of everything.